Hey, what's up guys? This is Reborn X with another how-to video. Today I'll be showing you guys how I install brakes on cars. This instruction relates to disc brakes. Alright, my Del Sol has disc brake front and the rear. I will be doing front and the rear, but I would only be showing the process on the rear because it's pretty much the exact same thing. If you can do the rear, you can do the front, vice versa. Alright, let's get to it. Okay, the first thing you want to do is, of course, put the car on jack stands or jack it up to where you can work on it. And then remove the lug nuts, which I've already done. You're right here. I kind of did this off camera. But yeah, once you do that, then you go ahead and remove the wheel. Alright guys, the tire is removed. The next step will be to remove these two bolts right here in the back of the caliper. Here's the first one, and here's the second one. Once those two are removed, the caliper is freed. Then you can just use a hanger or a bungee cord, whatever you have available, to mount the caliper away from everything else. And then we will remove the bolts in the back of the caliper bracket, which is a mess back here, which will be these two bolts. Here's one right here. Alright, let's let this camera focus. So here's the first bolt. We got to remove this to free up the mounting bracket, and then the second one is right above it. Let me find it here real quick. This is the second one right here. Alright, so let me go ahead and start the process of removing the caliper itself. This thing is filthy back here. Okay, so the caliper is freed. Yep, caliper is freed. So what I'm gonna do now is just remove. What I gotta do now is remove the brake pads and get it out the way. This thing is so rusty. Good. Okay, so once you remove this bolt right here that I'm working on, and the one I was working on previously, those are the two bolts that hold on the brake caliper brackets to the car itself. So once I remove those two, the bracket is freed, and then I would go ahead and remove the rotors. All right, this is the rotors. I assume that some of you who are watching this video might not know what it is. Maybe this is your first time doing brake job, but this is the rotors, and this part that I removed previously, those are the brake pads. All right, and you can tell this has got a little bit of meat to it, just a little bit, probably about 30%, 30-40% life. But the car been sitting there for 2 years, and I'm not gonna take a chance on driving on these brake pads, especially when you can buy them for so cheaply. All right, so let me get back to it. Okay, so I removed brake caliper brackets. Here it is. As you can tell, most of my parts are just really old and rusty. Eventually, I would have to replace all of these with something new. But for now, we are working with limited budget. I might brush this up a little bit if I put it back on the car. But brake caliper bracket is off. Here's the brake caliper itself dangling. I actually don't need a bungee cord for this because I'm going to leave the cables attached. Alright, I'm going to leave the brake hose in the back, and I guess the brake line attached, and plenty of tension on it to keep it from just flexing. Now we're going to remove the rotors. Some cars you can easily just pull them off. Some cars, yeah, good luck with that. To remove the rotor itself, all you have to do is remove these two screws right here. 1, 2. These two screws actually hold down the rotors. Alright, so just get a Phillips head screwdriver or whatever power tool you may have available to you, and just go ahead and remove those two. And once you do that, you can move on to the next step. Two, and this thing will come off. Come off easy, just like that. Okay, so next I'm gonna go ahead and clean this area as much as I can, just because I really don't like the way it looks. So I'm gonna go ahead and clean it up real nice, and then I'm gonna compress this piston right here back into the brake caliper. Alright, once I compress that, then I will put the new rotor on, bolt up the brake caliper bracket, install the new pads, and bolt down the caliper itself. Alright, let's get to it. Alright, I just spent about 5 minutes or so just cleaning this area and the surface to make sure it's as smooth as possible. Alright, so next, now I'm going to go ahead and install the rotor. And what I got here is just an inexpensive rotor. It's Brembo's, but from AutoZone, so it can't be that expensive, right? So I got a set from AutoZone and Duralast Gold brake pads. So I'm gonna open this up and then start the installation process. I usually like to spray this down a little bit with brake part cleaner before I put it on the car. So just hit it a little bit to get the protective coating off. Running kind of low here. When you install this on the car, make sure there's 2 holes, one right here, 2. Make sure they line up. Make sure they line up with the 2 holes on the rotor itself. If not, you will not be able to thread them in. Okay? So, matter of fact, these are the holes with the little indentation on them. I'm not sure if you can see it on the camera, but if you look at it, the holes indented inward a little bit. These are the 2 holes that you want to make sure they line up with these 2 holes right here. Alright, and then once you do that, then you can go ahead and put the screw back on, screw them back on, and that's that. Okay, as you can tell, everything's lined up. Alright. I believe in here, there's some new screws. Here they are. So just use the new hardware. I wouldn't recommend using the old one, especially since you got a new one here in the box. Start them off by hand. You can finish it up with a screwdriver or a power tool, whichever you choose. Alright, so once you line it up, just go ahead and put the bolts back on. Same way you took it up earlier. Again, just thread it by hand. Alright guys, both of those bolts are both hand tight. I'm gonna go ahead and put a wrench on it and tighten them down some more. Alright guys, so the piston is compressed and it's all the way in. If you look at it right here from the top, it's pretty much flushed. So what I'm going to do now is compare the new pad to the old pad to make sure they're exactly the same size. Because if they're not, you're going to have issues. This is the new pad. As you can tell, it's relatively clean and it's very beefy. Alright, and this little line right here is like the wear indicator. So once the brake pad gets really low past this line right here, of course that's when you start hearing all this little sound and stuff, you know, give you a little warning on it, you know, like, hey, change me, you know, it's that time. So, and here's the old one, pretty rusty. See why I don't trust it. And I'm sure it's been through several heat cycles, so I wouldn't trust it at all. Alright, so I got them against each other. They look pretty much the same. Yep, they are good. So now I'm going to go ahead and install the new pads. To install the new pad, all you pretty much do is just slide it in like this. Like that, that's it. And you do the same exact thing on the opposite side. Except on the opposite side, you would have the pad like this. With this little metal part right here. metal clip or whatever you want to call it, facing upward. Alright. Okay guys, so once you install a new pad, this is what it should look like. Alright, this is what it should look like. And now, this is something I usually like to do. I like to add a little grease on the outer side of the pads, just because the caliper is metal, and so is this. Alright, so I like to just add a little grease on the outer side, so when it comes in contact, it doesn't make all this weird noises. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Just like to add a little grease on the outer. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Oops. I'm going to do that. Okay, that's that. So I got grease on both sides. Now I'm going to go ahead and slap the caliper back on. Put the two bolts on it that holds it down. Slap it down like that. Put the top bolts on. Just hand tighten it so you can get it all the way in. This is the finished product right here, and this is how the thing should look. Same way as it did before when you started. Alright, so once you assemble the whole brakes and stuff, alright, then you want to have somebody in the driver's seat so you can bleed the brakes. And bleeding the brakes is very simple, but you would need a bleeder kit for this. You can find them at a parts store for a few bucks. And all of this is usually it's a little tiny cylinder or whatever you want to call it, like a little bottle, a little plastic bottle, and some lines. Alright. But you would have somebody sit on the driver's side. You would have them push on the brakes while you open this up. Tell the person to keep it down and not let go of the brake pedal. Because if they do, they would introduce air back into the system. So the person will push down the brakes. You would open this bleeder screw so that the fluid will shoot out. You would tighten this back down, and you would tell the person to release the brake pedal. And then you would repeat that step over and over until you get all the air out of the system and the fluid coming out of here. It's nice and clear. Once that's done, you would just again tighten this down and then have the person pump the brakes down a few times. And while you do this, don't forget to monitor the brake reservoir to make sure you don't run out of fluid. Because if you do, you would introduce air back into the system and you would have to start this process all over again. So just, be mindful of that. And yeah, once you do all that, that's pretty much it. Fairly simple process. So now they also got new brake pads, they got new rotors, Brembos, inexpensive, from AutoZone. I think they were like $40 a piece. But yeah guys, if you find this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. If you are new to the channel, please consider subscribing and leave any comments below that you may have. I'll be gladly answer them. Thanks for watching guys. See you soon.